So yeah, just to kind of wrap this up, and it's always to me and to our team with Angela and Angelo and I, who sit on our investment committee and our planning committee. Um, we're always very keenly aware of certainly the macro and microeconomic things that need to go on, but also we're very big students of behavioral finance and to this first bullet point. So these are just a few kind of off the top of our heads that when we were kind of preparing for this, like, what are we doing now? And if if you're a client and you've met with one of us recently, some of this should resonate or be fresh because we've probably talked about it, right? But as we said, we're always looking for opportunities in any environment. And I think to Angie's point about behavioral finance and um, everything going on in the world can be scary, but when you really look at it, we realize, and we take a step back and if we take a planning approach, and we say this is just a part of the cyclical nature of the economy and the markets. This first bullet point here, reevaluate and restate your goals and objectives. That seems kind of, that's boring, but that's number one for a reason. Because making a move in your planning, whether it's in your portfolio, in your tax situation, in your estate planning, without really identifying why would you even be thinking of doing some of these things in the first place. I think we're very big on that. It's, investing just to invest to us isn't really the way to go about it. We should be investing with a purpose or investing with a goal in mind, right? So goals-based investing versus just trying to beat a benchmark. And then you start to break those out into different buckets, and you start to, when you see the bad news headlines or you see the next issue that's facing the economy or the world, you can hopefully rest easy at night going, okay, I've got a plan in place. There's money that might be exposed in my longer term buckets, but in my shorter term buckets, I've got enough cash to pay for my kids' college tuition or take a trip to Hawaii or whatever it is. It's when you so it's taking that planning approach to kind of using that bucket strategy, and it allows you to and what I was gonna say there was when you kind of put it all in one bucket, it's that old adage, put all your eggs in one basket, is when you can start to hurt yourself there. So, but some more tactical things that go on that are going on right now, and we're seeing as opportunities for clients to take advantage of. From a tax planning perspective, a lot of people look at me funny when I say this, but we love it. No, we love volatile markets because one, it puts the planning and the portfolios to a test, and knock on wood, so far we've lived up to that. But it gives us opportunity to do some tax planning, right? So tax loss harvesting your taxable investments, making sure that if an investment has come down with the market, you're able to realize some tax losses within a portfolio and buy back into a very similar position, but and kind of ride that back up, but also realize that tax loss on your tax return. We always say it's not what you earn in a portfolio, it's what you get to keep, right? So the less tax you can pay, the more you get to keep, and that's one example of that. RMD distributions, and I'll jump down to the fourth bullet point, Roth conversions. Clients who are in a situation where they have to take money out, now is a great time. It's certainly for Roth conversions, largely because to take a step back on what a Roth conversion is, if that's when you take pre-tax dollars and you convert them to Roth dollars, right? So pre-tax, just to level set it, is you've put money into a retirement account or an IRA and you've got a tax deduction, right? So you're lowering your tax bill. A Roth works exactly opposite, right? You're paying tax on it today, but all the money grows and comes out to you in retirement tax deferred. So we're having quite a few conversations with clients about, well, if the markets are down and we know that they're going to recover at some point, okay, whether that's 6 days from now, 6 months from now, or 6 years from now, and again, in our overall plan and our tax budget, if we were thinking of converting some dollars and paying some tax today, wouldn't that make sense to pay that tax on a lower amount because the market has artificially or temporarily reduced the value of our IRA? Well, where do we want that recovery to happen? we want that recovery to happen in our Roth, because now when your $10,000 turns back into $15,000, if that happens in your Roth, that $5,000 of gain in my example is completely tax-free to you in your retirement. So there's a good example of what is an opportunity. A lot of people say a down market and say, well, there can't be any opportunity in that. And we're having, again, a lot of conversations with clients, whether it's money in your pre-tax 401k. Sometimes you can look at your 401k plan at work, and there'll be what's called a Roth in-plan Roth conversion. And again, we always put the asterisk there, consult with your tax advisor, and this should be done within an overall context of a greater discussion. But that's just an example of one thing that you could be thinking about. The other big one, but jumping back up, increasing your savings. I can't tell you how many calls I get just because of Angela's point about behavioral finance. People get scared and they go, I think I'm going to stop my retirement plan contributions, or I think I'm going to stop saving into my taxable brokerage account. And when I tell people, well, no, now's the time you should double that amount. It's, again, markets are cyclical. You've got a great opportunity. The markets really, the last 3 years, 2018 was the last negative calendar year in the market. 2019, 2020, and 2021, even through COVID, the markets were screaming. They were up upwards of 10, 12, 15, 20% in those given years. And when the markets are up, nobody's ever called us and said, hey, I think we've earned a little too much. Let's take some money off the table. But on the flip side of that, the behavioral finance kicks in, and when the fear factor comes in of the scariness of a down market, and they'll say, I think we should stop investing, or I think we should do something, we should change something. Well, it will benefit you greatly for a long-term investor to start increasing those savings, increase your deferrals at work in your 401k. If you've got cash in the bank, and to Roger's question, if you have a good amount of cash in the bank right now, say 200,000, what would your thoughts on how to deal with this? And Mike jumps in with as an add-on, if you have some liquidity now, would you consider dollar cost averaging? And thank you for those questions. I'll touch on those. So go down, Roger, to your question, to the bottom, couple fixed interest products. So again, I'm going to always go back to the goals and objectives. If your goal and objective for that money in the bank is to buy a house in Florida in a year, or put a patio on your the back of your house, or to buy a car, well, think of it in buckets. If I'm going to need 50,000 of that 200,000 to put that addition on the back of my house, well, that needs to stay in a fixed interest product in the bank, a CD, a high interest savings account, versus if you say, well, a portion of that could be mid to long term, right? I won't need this money for 10 plus years. Well, now you can get into different market-based portfolios, right? So there's no magic pill. Take 200,000 and do this, and you're going to be great. Because one thing I have there on there is bond ladder, or if you've heard of laddering CDs, right? Where you go to the bank and you buy a 6-month, a 12-month, an 18-month, and a 24-month CD, and that's called laddering. Well, you can do that with municipal bonds, right? Where interest rates are now, a lot of clients with conservative nature, are using bond ladders or CD ladders. But if that money is 10 plus year money, a CD ladder might not be the best thing, because you're missing out on an opportunity to invest that in a longer term portfolio. To Mike's point, and his question is, that's where, yes, if you go, look, I'm not going to need this money for the next 5 to 10 years, dollar cost averaging, or taking, a monthly contribution into a brokerage account, or basically if you're investing into a 401k, that's what you're doing. You're dollar cost averaging into those accounts. It's a great time to put mid to long-term money to work in a market-based portfolio. Back to my earlier point, if it's a shorter term need, you don't want to mess with the markets. They're too volatile in the short term. And again, you're going to need that money in the next 2 to 3 years for a specific goal or objective. Then a fixed interest product, CD rates. It's actually a bit surprising to me how fast fixed interest rates and CDs, high interest savings, and even some of the more fixed products have come up. A lot of times banks they're really quick, as we know, to drop rates as rates were dropping. But we're seeing, high interest savings and fixed municipal money market funds, giving you now at least a percent or two. Obviously with a CD, the longer you're willing to go out, the more interest they'll give. But I think, just to wrap that up, I think that's the way I would think about it: is what is my goal and objective? What is my time horizon on that? And if it's short term, stay to the fixed interest products, CD ladders, bond ladders. If it's mid to long term, and again, mid, I'm saying 5 to 10 years, long 10 plus. Now you can start to get into maybe in a mid-range portfolio, getting into more of a fixed income portfolio, or a higher quality or conservative stock and bond portfolio. And then for your longer term, again, retirement money that's 10 plus years, great time to dollar cost average into that. And this ties back into the behavioral finance point, to Mike's question about dollar cost averaging. We've run the research on this, and the mathematics in the research say that if you have long-term money, right, 10 plus year money, or even midterm money, that the research says put all that money to work today, right? Don't dollar cost average. But when we factor in, because we at Note do, the behavioral finance side, our recommendations lean towards dollar cost averaging, because one, it feels better. It gives a nice consistent approach. If you put all the money in today and you turn on the news and the stock market drops 3%, you're not going to feel good about that. Versus if you you take your investment, you put it in 1/12 over, 1/12 of it over 12 months. Not great when you see that same news article, but at least you go, okay, only a portion of that money got exposed to that. And that dollar cost averaging works really well hand in hand with the behavioral finance side. So I always say to people, and if you've talked to me at all, you hear me say this all the time: life is a bell curve, right? So you've got extremes of doing nothing, extremes of jumping in the deep end. Generally, in my experience over the last 15 or 16 years, finding something in the middle of that bell curve, it gets you a really good outcome from a return and result standpoint, and it also makes you feel good. So I think that's kind of the best way to go about it as well. So these, again, there's more to it than this, but these were 6 or 8 different ideas. Oh, the gifting, I think I skipped over that. Great time if you're looking at some advanced estate planning with asset levels being temporarily depressed. Great time to look at gifting, to whether it's to a 529, which is a college savings account. Again, that's twofold. It's transitioning money to the next generation. It's putting it into a longer term market based portfolio when asset levels are down, right? Buy low, sell high. Directly to the next generation, or to a trust, or to a charity. There's some good opportunity to take advantage of that as well in a current market cycle that we're in. So